Do you ever feel like God called you to trading, but no matter how hard you try, you're stuck in place, struggling and getting nowhere? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the simple answer to overcoming that frustration and doing it in a way that honors both God and the calling He gave you. So this week's lesson comes from the passage in the Bible of Jesus walking on the sea. It's primarily from John chapter 6, but it's also found in Matthew 14 and in Mark 6. Now you're going to need to combine all three accounts to get the full picture. And this is absolutely so applicable to our trading for all of us today and for going forward. So picking up in John chapter 6, verse 15, we see that Jesus has just finished feeding the 5,000, big giant miracle. And so he sends his disciples to the other side of the lake so he could go up and be alone. Backing up just a little bit, right before this happened, he had gotten the news that John the Baptist was beheaded. So he's trying to be by himself. So he sends his disciples away so that he can be alone. It doesn't say that in John, but in the Matthew and in the Mark accounts of this passage, it says he sent them. So the disciples were being obedient to their calling and the Lord's command. They get in the boat like Jesus told them to do, and they head to the other side of the lake, the place that he told them to go. I love this. So they were, quote, in the middle of the sea, which is what Matthew and Mark say about it, or about 3 or 4 miles from where they started, according to John. But they were unable to get where they were going because they were fighting this headwind based on the terrain around the Sea of Galilee. There's a lot of massive winds that come down those mountains and across the lake, and they were rowing right into a massive headwind. Now, some of these guys were fishermen. They'd done this before. In fact, there's an interesting situation here. It's similar to what happened a couple of chapters prior in all three Gospels, where we see Jesus is asleep on the pillow, and the storm comes. They think they're going to die. They wake him up and says, "Hey, don't you care?" This time, we don't see any mention of a storm, just lots of wind, which causes these waves. But it's mainly the wind that is holding them back. So, whereas before, with Jesus in the boat, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They're afraid. We don't see fear this time. If anything, they had been doing this thing they're told to do, and they had the skill to do it, but they had been rowing all night long and not making any progress. They got about halfway. You ever feel like that in your trading? You get about halfway and just stop. So they get about halfway across the lake and just sort of come to a stand. They're rowing and rowing. And so instead of fear, like in that previous boat incident, this time I can imagine that what they're feeling is frustration. They're struggling against the wind, struggling to complete this task that they feel like they were given by their Lord, and they're just going nowhere. Maybe they weren't afraid this time because this wasn't a storm, or possibly they weren't afraid this time because they'd been here before, right? Just a little bit ago in their timeline, this has happened before. Jesus had spoken and rebuked the wind and the waves, and they had their fears overcome. So they're in the middle of the lake, about 3 or 4 miles offshore, and they started in the evening, and now it's during the fourth watch, which is somewhere between 3 and 6 a.m. So they had been rowing all night. They had to have been tired, and they had to have been understandably frustrated. I mean, again, some of these guys were fishermen. They had made their living. They had grown up on this lake, and they're failing at their main job. I mean, imagine if you have this one skill and you're told, hey, go, you feel called by God to go do this one skill. Think, hey, I got this. If I know nothing else, I know how to row a boat across the Sea of Galilee because I've been doing it my whole life. Well, now suddenly, in the midst of what's supposed to be their strength, the thing that they know how to do, they don't need Jesus to help them get from point A to point B across the lake. All they got to do is row. Now suddenly, they're just stuck and frustrated, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So it's somewhere between 3 and 6 a.m. and they're tired and frustrated. And they see, from their perspective, someone walking towards them on the water. They didn't recognize Jesus for who he was. And again, there's wind and wave, and I'm not going to chase a rabbit, but I do wonder, for Jesus, is walking across water. We always see, pictures of this, and it's a calm sea, and he's walking across it, and it's flat. But there's wind and waves. Is he having to go uphill and downhill? Is it like a like a hike more than a walk. I don't know. Anyway, for whatever reason, they didn't recognize him. It doesn't say there's a storm, so they can see him, right? So there's probably a moon out, who knows what. It's just wind here, not a storm. So they can see somebody. They didn't recognize him for who he was. They'd been with him all day and for a while now, or what he could do. Mark's account actually says that Jesus was going to pass them by if they hadn't seen him. Can you imagine? All right, Jesus walks all the way across, gets to where he's going, and they don't see him. They don't call out to him. Are they still stuck in that lake, rowing and being frustrated and struggling and trying to do it all in their own power? They hadn't called out to him. If we don't recognize that Jesus is there for us, to offer us himself in our struggle, are we going to be left by ourselves, to ourselves, doing it by ourselves in that struggle? It's a good question. So they see someone, a couple of the accounts say they think it's a ghost, and they freak out when they first saw this thing. Oh, they freak out. By the way, this is also the passage. It's in Matthew where Peter gets out and walks briefly on the water. Peter doesn't include it in his account to Mark, so we don't know why. So they freak out when they first see him. Do we do that when Jesus shows up in our struggle? Is our first instinct one of fear? Maybe our first instinct is one of putting failure on ourselves. Oh, I can't do it. I've got to call for help. Regardless, the first thing he says to them is, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." You see this throughout the Bible when angels show up. The first thing the angels always say is, "Don't freak out." So Jesus says, "Be of good cheer." He announces his presence to them and gives them comfort and lets them know that there's no longer a reason to be afraid because he's here. In fact, even more than don't freak out, he tells them to be of good cheer. And this Greek word, which is tharseo, means be of good cheer. It also means be of good comfort and be of good courage. There's a lot wrapped up in what he tells them. It's more than just cheer up. It's also don't worry, have courage. So when Jesus shows up in our struggle, it's not the promise of his problem solving that's the blessing. It's simply his presence with us in that struggle. That's the blessing. So then Jesus gets in the boat and immediately the wind stops. This is the thing they've been struggling against, the very thing they had been fighting. Dude, take a breath. Hey guys, I want to take just a minute out of this video to talk to a few of you out there who may be feeling like you need a little bit extra help in your trading journey. Now, whether you are just starting out or whether maybe you are trying to restart your trading, from time to time, you may need some one-on-one help. So I want to let you know that we do have our coaching program available to just a select few. We're only taking 2 or 3 students every single month, and we've only got 1 spot left for July. So if you've ever needed some extra one-on-one help, if you want to learn how to build a system for yourself from the ground up, or maybe rebuild a system for yourself from the ground up, nothing that we give you, but that we walk with you and show you how to build it yourself that fits you and your trading style and your lifestyle, then I would encourage you to follow the link down in the description and take a look into our coaching program. All right, keep going. Struggling against was overcome by the mere presence of Jesus. This is not like that previous sea voyage where Jesus rebukes the wind and the waves. Actually, I think he only rebukes the wind, not the waves. He didn't say anything. It doesn't say he says anything. It was just his mere presence that rescued them from their struggle. And oh my goodness, how? And as we go through this, I want you to think about how this applies to your trading. This is what we're after here. In the previous sea crossing, they were afraid for their lives, and Jesus miraculously spoke to the wind, rebuked the wind, and saved them. This time, all he does is show up, and their fruitless struggle ends. Then here's the most important part, and you need to read all 3 Gospels to get it. Don't miss this. He didn't just walk up and get in the boat, as it says in Matthew and Mark. Now, in John makes the critical point that the disciples willingly received him into the boat. That is what we must do in our trading. In a world where most everyone tries to separate you and your faith from your financial endeavors, we must do the exact opposite. We must run to Jesus. We must invite him into our trading and do so willingly. And again, I love going into the Greek here. This word in the Greek, thelo, rhymes with jello. It means to will, or sure, to intend, to be resolved or determined. So it's not just being willing, like, okay, fine, Jesus, come in. Fine, we'll see what happens. It's being determined to include Jesus, being purposeful in asking him to be a part of your trading, to every day intentionally ask him into my trading. So then back to the disciples here. Then finally, when they had spent the whole night struggling on their own to accomplish this task that they were given by the Lord, right? It wasn't like they were off doing something that they dreamed up. God told them something to do, and they were off doing it. After they invited him to come into this very endeavor, now comes the payoff. Now comes the most important part. And this is only in John. John chapter 6, verse 21 says, "Then they willingly received him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land where they were going." So they spent all night long doing it on their own, trying to do it on their own. They got about halfway across. Jesus comes out. They invite him into the boat, willingly invite him into the boat, eagerly, with intent, with purpose, invite him into the boat. And immediately they are on shore at the spot they were aiming at, which brings up the questions in my mind, and that's just how my mind works. Did Jesus teleport them the rest of the way across the sea? Did the lack of the wind resistance and his calming and encouraging presence mean that they were sort of able to complete their task so easily as if like no time passed? And we've all driven down a road before, and suddenly we get to where we're going, like, I don't remember the last 10 miles. Was that what happened? Jesus is there, and they're rowing, all of a sudden, hey, we're there. None of the three Gospels mentions anything further about how the boat got from the middle of the sea to where they were going. It doesn't say. All that says is Jesus got in the boat and then talks about what they did on land. John's the only one that says that immediately they fulfilled the task they were given. They were at their destination. So, I mean, I've got no problem believing that the same Jesus who was walking on water in the first place, he could command the winds and the waves, could, snap his fingers and beam them up, Scotty, and get them from point A to point B. But it really doesn't matter in the end. The takeaway here is clear, especially for us traders. I'm amazed at how much of the scripture is aimed at us as traders. Almost all of us who are doing this, we're doing it for our family. And we kind of believe that trading has been given to us as a calling. Again, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and trading just seems like some avenue that God opens up in front of us and says, here, this is what I want you to do to accomplish this task. And having this as a calling is fantastic. It is the best place to start. 1 Corinthians 7:17 says, only let each person lead the life that God has assigned to them and which God called them. So there's clear evidence that God has callings on all of our lives, which can absolutely include trading. Most of us have tried at one point or another to do this on our own. And again, that's perfectly natural. We're all raised to work hard. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 4 that you should aspire to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business. That doesn't mean, hey, mind your business, don't gossip. It means take care of your own business and work with your own hands. And it says later in 2 Thessalonians that, if anyone will not work, he should not eat. So we are supposed to work at this endeavor that God gave us. And lots of us, especially Christian traders, realize that we can't do this alone. And we need other Christian traders around us. And not only is there nothing wrong with that, we're commanded in Galatians chapter 6 to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So yes, we should do this with other ones around us. But I know for me initially, and for a lot of people, I missed the most important thing, which was that I needed to, and we all need to, willingly and purposefully invite Jesus into our trading. Only he can bring an end to the frustrations that happen all the time. It's his very presence that brings calm to the storm that we are in. And it's his way that leads to the ultimate result he wants to bring about. He told the disciples, get in your boat and go over there. And they tried and struggled to do it on their own. And he got in the boat with them after they invited him in, and they ended up where he told them to go. So inviting him into our trading is a way for us to fulfill the command he gave us in the way that he wants us to fulfill the command, and also achieve the result that he wants us to have. I love what Solomon says here at the end of the book of Psalms. We don't often think about Solomon writing Psalms, even though it says he wrote lots of things. We think about Psalms more as David, but Psalm 127 was written by Solomon. It's one of those songs of the ascents where they were going up to Jerusalem. So anyway, 127:1 says, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. And this is from a guy who built lots and lots of buildings. So what that means is when we're trying to do this on our own, we're doing it in vain unless it is the Lord, unless it's God who built it for us, whether that's a trading strategy, your overall trade plan, or just your trading career. As you're going down this journey and trying to build this career of trading, honestly, we are laboring in vain unless God is the one that built us, unless we have invited him in. And so the main question that many of you may have right now is, okay, that's great. I hear what you're saying. Jesus needs to be part of my trading. How? What does that look like? Well, Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. And then over in Colossians, Paul tells them, whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward for your inheritance. For you serve the Lord Christ. Jesus himself shows us our ultimate goal for trading in Matthew. And this is a verse that I'm trying to live out in this, as I deliver coaching and as we build this business and as I deliver messages like this on YouTube and across social media. I don't want anyone looking at me and seeing me. Matthew 5:16 says this, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. That is my prayer. And I know it is hard. I know. But here's how you do it. Here's how you break this thing down. How do I invite Jesus into my trading journey? Don't look at it. Don't look down the road of your trading journey. Just focus on today. Just focus on your next trade. Invite Jesus into your trading just this one day. Don't worry about tomorrow. Put him in your trade plan. Actually, put him first in your trade plan. Have a checklist that you put on the wall next to your screen. And checkbox number 1 is invite Jesus into my trading first, and don't do anything else until I do that. I know this is hard. This is something that seems counterintuitive to a lot of us. I know I was like this. If you need any help in this, I have been there, and I know other people who have been there. Just reach out to us. There's a link down in the description where anybody can schedule a one-on-one video call with us at any time, for any reason, totally free. This is just something we love to do. We're here to serve. So whether you need something specific, like I need help getting started, how do I do that? Or if you just need to talk, if you just feel overwhelmed, just reach out to us and we are here to help you. Again, the link for it is down in the description. So I want to wrap up with this verse, 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, including trading, do all for the glory of God. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.